In this video, we're going to see how we can create new materials and how we can manage them by their appearance and also how they are visualized in technical drawings like this one here, which is a 3D, but also we can see how they are represented in 2D like this. So we're going to talk about also how we can create a particular parameter for the families in order to change the material directly inside the project and not going back always inside the family. So in the previous video we saw how we can generate terrains, complex models like terrains with the side panel and top surface, and also how we can customize more the families and how we can use the modeling tools that we have in Revit. So we created a family which is composed by these forms and additive forms and subtractive forms like the void forms. So we can do a little bit of 3D modeling in Revit, but we only have few tools. Now if we want more, you can check other guides and courses in channel talking about 3D modeling, for example in Maya or Cinema 4D or Rhinoceros and so on. So you have many different 3D modeling tools out there that you can use to model every object and then import it into Revit in 3D. We saw an example on how to import from SketchUp, but again we're going to do other guides later, so you can subscribe to the channel and follow. So we also talked about conceptual mass. So this one here could become a chair, or it could be also a building depending on the size. And if you use the family conceptual mass, then you're gonna import this into the project and turn this into walls, curtain walls, and roofs, floors, and so on. So this is another really interesting tool that you will find in Revit full version. Okay, let's go back. And so talking about families, we also saw that we can see there is standard material assigned once you create the family. For example, we created a table and we use the standard furniture family. We're gonna see that again later, but what we want to do is get inside the family right now. So I'm gonna double click, and right now I am in the table. Let's switch to the 3D view. Okay, now we can start to play around with materials. So materials can be shown like this, like a plain color, and this is when you use the shaded or consistent color without shading. Or they can be shown in a hidden line, and they can use only the lines, the technical lines here, so it's even simpler. Or they can be realistic. Now when you use realistic, you can see the textures applied on the material, and this is what usually it's used if you need to do renderings. So if you need to create a realistic image of this table, or also an animation, for example, again in Cinema 4D, or using V-Ray as a plugin, or you can export this in Lumion or Unreal Engine. Well, any 3D software usually uses textures. Now in Revit, we the main thing, the most important thing is other data, but we can also do some renderings, but it's not the best software out there to do renderings because it's a little bit slow, it's a little bit heavy, because it needs to manage all the building. It's more like a management tool, as we said also in the starting videos of this course. So BIM software are more like for managing than creating visuals and really realistic models, and you can move into other software if you need to do that. This is just a reminder. But we can see here that we don't have rendering. If you have the full version of Revit, you will also have an extra one here, which is going to show you the rendering. So you can render, but again, it's not going to be the best render out there. You can use other tools, and you can write in the comments. You can ask for suggestions and assistance. You can also write your suggestions if you want in the comments below the video. Now, creating this model in the previous video, we used 3 different tools. So this one here was the blend, or I will call this also loft, because in other software this is called loft. We use the revolve tool to create this one, and then we use the simple extrusion to create the tabletop. Now these are three components, three, let's say, different elements in our family, and we can treat them differently in terms of materials. So for example, if I want to change the base here, I can click, and then I will go here in the left and change the material. Now each time you read here material, you can get inside here, and if you find by category, this is kind of a default and preset that Revit uses. So if you want to override that, you need to click somewhere around here, and these three dots will appear. Click on those, and then you are in the material browser, which is the panel where you can manage all the materials in the project or in the family that you are in the moment, or you can open up also extra library. So the first thing here, let's find a nice material for this bottom of the table. So I'm gonna scroll with this, and you can see that we don't have much here, because these are the materials already inside the template that you can use, and this is the default here for furniture. Also, if you click on this little icon, you can say by category, and you will apply again the one that's already set up for the default. Now let's click again, and if you want to see additional materials, you can click on this little icon down here at the bottom. So you can open up the libraries. Now depending on what version you are in, you can have more of these, and you can also have structural and other data that you can use. Now in this light version of Revit, you can only have identity, graphics, and appearance. Now graphics are for the technical drawings, appearance are for textures and rendering, but you can see we don't have any texture here. Let's go here to the default, and this is a representation of the texture. But we're gonna talk about textures later. Just let's focus about creating new materials right now and doing the basic operation. And then you have identity, which are data and info that will be recalled once you create, for example, other technical drawings or information sheets, things like that. So you can type here, for example, the cost or URL where this material can be found, and so on. So just like we said at the beginning of the course, this is BIM system. So it's a database basically where all this data will be stored once you apply that and assign it into your project. And we only have these three, but we can also find materials that have structural information and energetic information and so on. So these are really standard materials right here. So if we go in the appearance library, let's search for a metal. So I'm gonna go down there, and there you go, this is metals. You can also create your favorites library, and these other you can see here are empty because probably we cannot access those in this version of Revit. So I'm going to go to the metals and decide to use one for the table. So let's say that I want this like pink. So if you double click, this is going to substitute the one that you are selecting at the moment. So you can see here that the wood has been overwritten by this metal, which is not technically right. So let's cancel this. Otherwise, this one here will be all overwritten. So the best thing to do is to create or duplicate an existing material, just like we did for families, just like we did with types. So here you can duplicate an existing one. You can use the default, or you can create a new. So I'm gonna create a new material, and I'm gonna call this, well, double click, and now we have applied that, and click again. Let's